So underneath this piece here, I'm gonna try and explain a bit of the computer boards or what might be able to help. Right here is the motor for the figure that comes in and out of the door, and this computer board seems to be responsible for the mister. This one gets actually pretty hot when it's running. I'm not sure if this one is on its way out or not, but this one seems to be a power supply for the sound, because since this piece uses 24-volt AC, it is way too much for a sound chip board. So they must have had a sound power reduction. Then on my piece, the hardest one to get to though was this figure on the barrel, because he was not working. Again, the grease was seized on the inside of the gearbox, and what I had to do was X-Acto knife this resin right here. So I just carefully cut around this part until this became loose, the board that he sits on. I also had to cut this post out. It was hot glued on the top, but then it had some sort of resin on the bottom. I was able to put this oil on there, and that loosened it up, and I was able to crack it out without breaking it. And then once that is done, you can pull this figure out. But then what comes next is there's a screw you need to loosen that is on his axle, what basically gets him to move with a crank gear. And so you'll need to loosen that with another Phillips head screwdriver. And then the top board here needs to be cracked off from the motor unit. So really, if this one is not working, I would probably recommend leaving it alone, because it is very tricky. The other thing I had to do is one of the heat sinks on the inside prevented me from removing the motor unit from the piece, because you cannot pull the motor out this way as the wires are too short. I guess if you wanted to try and cut the wires, you could pull it out and then have to resolder them in. But I had to basically take this part of the rock off. This is some sort of foam, which is kind of interesting. This is pottery, but this is foam. So what I did is I heat gunned the edges and then very carefully removed the foam. I also again put oil on because it loosens the hot glue. And then here you can see is the power plug-in. If you're having any sound issues, I would definitely recommend oiling that, because it'll prevent against rusting. And then there was a Phillips head screw right here that I had to loosen to get the heat sink out. So then I was able to remove the motor unit from the bottom. And then once you get it out the bottom, you can do the same process here of just removing the motor, oiling the gears here, and then that should be about it. If you have any other questions about getting your Lemax pieces working, or if you're having any other issues with this piece in particular, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks for watching this video, and be sure to check out the other videos on my channel.